Chicken heads, chicken heads, chicken heads, chicken heads, ball heads everywhere. Ain't got no hair in bag. Chill, look, no hair in bag. Look, keep out, so easy, get up, run to the kitchen, one game until the game is great. That don't make skin, cheaper the baby. On the stall for a leg. Pretty walk, give it out here, ain't a thing. Get a chicken wing, got some gold teeth at the good. Try to shake that thing, try to get a piece of chicken always. Into some guns, celebrate your life bill. You bought an outfit, stay at your mammy house and keep.
Welcome everybody to Mr. Fantasy, the fantasy football expert. I'm not just a fantasy for football, but I'm all your wives and your girlfriends' fantasies. So when you're watching all that football this weekend, you make sure you know where I am, because I may not be. And I just want to say welcome and good luck, and I'm just going to go over some stuff that have to deal with our fantasy league. Mainly, I'd like to say that this draft this year, there were so many unprepared teams, and the delays, and the picks, and the length. And normally I would say it is the fact that the league is deep and competitive, and we're getting to know each other, and there's a lot of intensity going on. But I just can't say that. To me, the last row, those three tables in the back row against the wall, Slaughterhouse, The Nation, Slots, and Sweaty Balls, they probably cost us an hour alone. And that's just because, their teams, they just weren't ready. And the teams show and they stink. So anyway, getting started, I want to talk about this week's games. It's not a long video. I don't know if I'm going to do it every week. I'm going to try it. Mr. Fantasy is very busy and he's got a lot of appointments. You know what I'm saying, girls? So anyway, let's go to game number 1. And this is Clash of Kings versus Sweaty Balls. Now, no one can match Gary Acadino's skill level. And Clash of Kings, my pre-draft, one of the pre-draft favorites, but my post-draft favorite, should actually blow these guys out of the water. If you look at their anchors or their key players, they're going to probably play their core players. Marshawn Lynch already came out and scored 25, and now Sweaty Balls has got to steal with RG3, Zach Stacy, who I'm not a fan of. But when you talk about Gary's team, you got to talk about this three-headed monster at wide receiver. Vincent Jackson, Andre Johnson, and Demaryius Thomas. And if you take those three guys, and if RG3 has a year, okay, because I don't think he's good, but if he has a year that shows that he is a very good fantasy quarterback, who's going to stop this team? Especially with Marshawn Lynch. So Sweaty Balls, James Lusk, and Brendan McNamara. And Brendan, dude, man, you better go on a diet, dude. That gut got really big. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be like, calling you out on video. But I would definitely look into that. Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig something. You know what I mean? And now I know why you can play golf good, because your partner's a PGA professional. Anyway, that's about the only thing you're professional at, because you're not professional at picking a fantasy team. This team is horrible. And now you got to deal with the Andre Ellington situation, one of your called running backs. But you follow the magazines because everybody was on Andre Ellington. For what reason? He hasn't shown anything. So Jay Cutler, who I like, is fine. But now you got to play Jackson instead of Ellington. But we don't know what Ellington would have done. Malcolm Floyd, Percy Harvin already played. He only got 16 points. Keenan Allen's got a red cross near his name, but that's probably nothing because they put red crosses when guys have a head cold. So anyway, I just see Sweaty Balls being 0-1 after this week, and I just see Gary just putting his foot on the pedal and, just showing everybody that he's a serious team to deal with. Let's go to the next game. Let's check Moneyball and The Nation. The Nation, man, you were a disaster. And, you have this new partner, and you're on the phone with him, and you're trying to talk with him, and I don't understand. I mean, these phone calls, they just kill everything. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, put him on speaker. You might have a better shot of putting him on speaker and leaving him on the phone the whole time, as opposed to calling him up, calling him back, I'll call you this and I'll call you that. You put him on speaker, he could hear the draft, and then when it's time for you to speak to him, you got the headphones. I don't understand. But anyway, everybody knows how long the Nation took to make his picks, okay? But do you realize that the longest he took was his first pick? The first round pick, yeah, that's right. The 10th pick, the 9th pick overall. He took forever. And we all know he wanted Jimmy Graham. And I know that was the argument on the phone probably. I want Jimmy Graham, I want Jimmy Graham. And then his partner said, no, we need a running back, we need a running back. And I know that's how it went, because you don't take Monty Ball over Jimmy Graham unless the guy on the other line of the phone says, we need a running back, we need a running back. So right away, the Nation and Rob Henning did not have control of his team like he normally has. But what are you going to do? He's just, he's not a contender. He's not a perennial champion. You know what I mean? He's just someone that just comes and drafts a team and hopefully makes the playoffs. No one fears him. But I think he's going to be in for a long day with the Moneyball. I mean, Russell Wilson didn't put up a lot of points. He already put up 23. But you got to look at the Alfred Morris and Matt Forte combination that he's going to face. And then you deal with Antonio Brown. And, I don't know. It's going to be a closer game than maybe I first thought. But Nick Foles needs to come through, because the rest of the Nation's team, Steve Jackson, Giovanni Bernard, he's going to split carries with Jeremy Hill. Mike Wallace, I don't know. Colston's getting old. So, I don't know. This will be a closer game, but I'm going to have to say that Moneyball's going to pull this out. I think Moneyball pulls this out. So, look for Moneyball to beat the Nation this week. All right? Now, if we go with slots, and they play Breaking Bad, this is John Torchio versus Joe Bean and Phil Bean Sr. Slots is the two-time defending champion, and I don't know. I don't think Torch could win 3 in a row. He's fading in the baseball league, but I don't want to talk about baseball. But I think mentally he's drained. I think he came into the draft saying his back was hurt. I think that was an excuse. I think that the drainage mentally of his baseball season caught up to him. I don't think he wanted to be at the football draft. It's just timing. Not that Torres doesn't want to do football. I think that he was on this high horse of 2 titles in a row in the football, and if he put the baseball title together, 3 out of 4 years of winning money, and he's not getting a chance to win money this year. And I think he was used to getting to win money. So if you look at his team, I thought he drafted Andrew Luck way too early. Some quarterbacks went after Luck that I had higher ranked. Andy Dalton, Jay Cutler, Colin Kaepernick. I mean, everybody loves Luck, and we love Luck, and he's a great football player. But great football players don't always put up great stats. Injury issues and age on that wide receiver core: Hakeem Nicks, Reggie Wayne. And their offensive line is, I don't know. I know I do my preparation when it comes to injuries. And if you look at their offensive line, all 5 of their starters are hurt or out. And it's not easy replacing an offensive line in the NFL. I think Andrew Luck might be the quarterback that gets sacked the most this year. The only thing that could save him is that he's got mobility and he could run. But I think the Colts are in for a long season. I think they're a little bit overrated, and I think the injuries are going to catch up to them. And they got no defense. So, but anyway, defense. Nobody plays defense. Torch has got a really tough team here. Doug Martin, Jamal Charles. Again, these are probably his core players. Cordell Patterson he took way too early, but Bolden and Decker might be okay. Witten, I don't know. It's not a championship type team, but he's not facing the greatest team. Eddie Lacy didn't do much for Joe Bean in week 1 and Phil Bean in week 1. So now they need Matt Stafford to come up big. They need Ruben Randle to have a big game. But, Ruben Randle and Victor Cruz and these guys, and they're not playing for, a top offense right now, preseason-wise. So, Richard Rodgers gave him a 0. So Joey's got 2 guys already playing. Torch didn't, and I think Torch may not have the better roster of these 2, but I think the fact that Joey only had 7 points for 2 players that played already has him behind the 8 ball, and I think Torch squeaks this out. But Joey's team and Phil Bean's team is better, okay, but not this week. So that's how I look at that. And if we go to the Globetrotters versus Bullsteins, I mean, here's another game where Bullsteins' quarterback has already played already. Aaron Rodgers. And, Aaron Rodgers couldn't do anything against that Seattle defense. To all those guys who think taking Seattle DST in the 5th round was too early, you have no clue what you're talking about. I mean, if the Packers, Rodgers and Nelson and Cobb and Eddie Lacy, if they can't do anything against that team, if they can't, who is going to? Who is going to go and stop that team? All right, let me stop talking about Seattle DST. My bad. Anyway, Bullsteins doesn't have a bad team. I mean, everybody wanted Emmanuel Sanders. He was the hot pick. People like to pretend like he was a secret, but he's not. Peyton Manning. You go play with Peyton Manning, it's a whole different ball game. Welcome not playing. Sanders fits right in. More targets for him. Double team Demaryius Thomas. There's Julius Thomas. So, this is a good team right here. Aaron Rodgers already played. He had a bad game, but we'll see what Toby Gerhardt's going to do. I think he's going to be in for a long day. Jacksonville against the Eagles. Adrian Peterson. I already said Emmanuel Sanders, Deshaun Jackson. Steve Smith, who, he's way past his prime. He's a nobody. Vernon Davis. And the Bengals D going against Baltimore. And I think the Bengals are going to have a big day today. So I just see that the Globetrotters have Matt Ryan, Darren Sproles, Michael Crabtree, who's questionable, and that's big because they're counting on Michael Crabtree to be a big-time player for them. Golden Tate, who I think is just going to be a real nobody in Detroit. Des Bryant's a big-time player. Torrey Smith stinks. Julius Thomas. So it's a good game. This is going to be a good game. Panthers D, this is a tough game because these are two teams, Bullsteins and Globetrotters, that I think are contenders. And who pulls this one out? I'm going to go with Globetrotters. I think the fact that Matt Ryan has a shot to possibly double what Aaron Rodgers did because Rodgers only scored 15. And I think that's going to be a shootout in New Orleans. But the Crabtree situation is going to be something that they'll have to deal with. And if they can't deal with it, if he doesn't play, they got to put like a Lamar Miller in there or Devonta Freeman, who no one really knows what's going to do. So, I don't know. Tough game here. This is tough. I'm going to say Globetrotters pulls it out against two of the top contending teams in the league. Slaughterhouse and Richie's Idol, I mean, they're good teams. Slaughterhouse had a bad draft. I welcome them back. Thank you, guys. I mean, the league surely misses characters like this. Big Ed and Joe Zayas, a partnership that is made in heaven. Two of the uglier team owners in our league, and they took a long time in the back. And maybe it was the Coors Lights. I mean, I thought that these guys by now and at their age, the Coors Lights would take them a lot longer to get drunk. But they took a long time too. That whole back row was a disaster. I mean, really, because the front row was great, but the whole back row was a disaster. Colin Kaepernick, Arian Foster, Shane Vereen, A.J. Green, Kendall Wright, Reggie Wayne, Gronkowski. We don't know what he's going to be all about. He might get hurt on the first play. This is the Slaughterhouse team. Colin Kaepernick needs to step up. He's been on the fantasy radars, but you surely see that as time goes by, these quarterbacks drop down the list. I mean, Andrew Luck was picked ahead of him, and I had Kaepernick ahead of Luck. So, Richie's Idol is Tony Romo, who I think is going to have a monster year. Rashad Jennings, which he got late, who's a starting running back, so you never know. Reggie Bush, Roddy White, Cecil Shorts. Jordy Nelson put in 17 points, which is good. You want to try to squeak a touchdown in the game to make it a 23, but he didn't. But 17 is not a dead spot, and he's got the monster Jimmy Graham. But if you look at this team, he really needs Graham and Romo to be big, because we don't know what kind of season Roddy White's going to have. And Roddy White's another one, 33 years old. So I don't see a lot of superstars or potential superstars on Richie's Idol's team other than Jimmy Graham. So this matchup of Richie's Idol versus Slaughterhouse, I think Slaughterhouse takes it. Especially if Gronkowski plays and gets something. If Gronkowski plays and gets something, I just see Richie's Idol losing. I mean, when we were in the draft room, I was in awe of Richie Idol's team, but I don't know, man. As I stare at it, it's not that good of a team, and I'm probably going to win the $100 bet that I have with him. But anyway, his partner Rob Palermo's got nice looking eyebrows, if that's any consolation. Let's go with Bistro Smokers. I'm not Bistro Smokers. That's baseball. Bistro Bloggers and Checks in the Mail. Checks in the Mail. Is another team that I think is one of the favorites to win the title this year. Peyton Manning, Pierre Thomas, Ryan Matthews. Okay, running backs. I think he'll get the PPR out of that needs. They won't be dead spots, but they won't be superstars. Le'Veon Bell. They like to draft running backs. They had 3 running backs last year. They're doing it again this year. Doug Baldwin, 4 points. He's not good at all. He stinks. I would never start him, especially on the Thursday game. But they might not have had options. Shalon Jeffries. What kind of year does he have? You know what I mean? So, Antonio Gates way past his prime. Adam Vinatieri. So I don't know. The Eagles D I think is going to be a surprise this year, but he's going against Phillip Rivers, DeMarco Murray, Julio Jones, Mike Evans, Jeremy Maclin. I don't know. I think that Bistro Bloggers is in for a long, long day. Mr. Fantasy says that the Bloggers will be 0-1 at the end of the day. And if we look at Victory versus Bean Team, Victory had Randall Cobb already. Bean Team had Seattle DST already, and they both scored 17 points each. The Seattle DST was having a great game until they gave up that whole, let the clock move, garbage time points. No big deal. They still won against a dominant team, and I'm happy to come out with 17 points. It's going to come down to some quarterback play. How healthy is Tom Brady? Does he have the weapons there anymore? I do not know. Drew Brees is on the Bean Team. He's a monster. And Julian Edelman and Brandon Marshall and Greg Olsen, that's a nice receiving core. He's going against Fitzgerald, Calvin Johnson, who's a beast. Moreno, I don't think is going to be as good in Miami as he was in Denver. You don't have Peyton there no more. Franco, I just see that the Bean Team crushes this team. And I think the Bean Team will be 1-0. So, and on a side note, something other than our fantasy leagues and our fantasy league season, for those of you who it's Sunday tomorrow and you lost a paycheck, you went to the track, you blew something and you need a way to get the money back and you can't borrow from anybody, the lock of all locks this Sunday are the Chiefs. Give up the points. They're at home. They're going to crush the Titans, and you can thank me afterward. Because when your girlfriend or your wife finds out you blew the paycheck, or when you can't pay that bill because you blew the paycheck, you're going to thank me come Monday that you beat the bookie because you had the Chiefs giving the points. All right? This is Mr. Fantasy saying, I'm your fantasy. I'm everybody's fantasy. And I'm out. And on that note,
so back to Joe, and we gon' stay chicken. Pull up them mo. Holla at a chicken. Chicken, chicken. Chicken heads. Chicken, chicken. Chicken heads. Chicken, chicken. Chicken heads. Chicken, chicken. Chicken heads.
Yeah, you like my outfit. Don't even fake the digger. I thought you said you had your girl on the light.